Here's a puzzle for you. When is card advantage a disadvantage? Give up? When you're hell-bent on being hell-bent. Hi, I'm the Pauper guy, and today I'm talking about a deck I made that I call Mono Black Hellbent. Mono Black Hellbent is a combo deck that tries to take advantage of the Hellbent mechanic on a couple of its cards. In order to have a Hellbent effect active, you must have no cards in hand, so this deck tries to play or discard all of its cards as fast as possible. First, let's look at the win conditions and payouts of this deck. Headless Specter is a black 2/2 creature with flying for 3 mana. It also has a Hellbent ability. When it deals combat damage to a player, if you have no cards in hand, that player must discard a card at random. This is a callback to Hypnotic Specter, a card that is as old as Magic itself. Playing a Dark Ritual on turn 1 and dropping a Hypnotic Specter was a brutal way to start the game, and now in Pauper we can get to do something fairly similar. Headless Specter is definitely a lot less scary, but it will do for our purposes. Gathan Raiders is a red creature card in our mono black deck, but much like Vault Scourge, it can be played by any color. This is because we will be using it as a morph creature, paying 3 mana to play it face down as a colorless 2/2. Then, we can flip it face up at any time by paying the morph cost, which requires you to discard a card. Once face up, it is a 3/3, unless you have no cards in hand, in which case it is a 5/5. It should come as no surprise to many of you that we are also running Gurmag Angler, a black 5/5 creature for 7 mana with the Delve ability. Gurmag is seen in countless Pauper decks, since it is a serious threat that can be played for as little as 1 black mana, depending on how many cards you can exile from your graveyard. Our deck will be doing its best to play and discard cards as quickly as it can, so Gurmag Angler is a natural choice. Now let's take a look at some of our combo enablers. By running cards that turn themselves into mana, we both accelerate our plays and move quickly towards being Hellbent. Dark Ritual is a card that you won't see in most formats outside of Pauper and Legacy, and it's a treat to get to play it in decks like this. It's a black instant for 1 mana that adds 3 black mana to your mana pool, effectively giving you 2 free mana anytime you want it. Lotus Petal is a 0 mana cost artifact that can be sacrificed to give you 1 mana of any color. Both of these cards work particularly well with Gurmag Angler, which appreciates not just the mana they provide, but the cards that end up in the graveyard once their effects resolve. Blood Pet is a 1/1 black creature for 1 mana that may be sacrificed at any time to give you a black mana. While not as much of an accelerant as Lotus Petal or Dark Ritual, this can be sacrificed on a later turn to give you an extra mana, an extra card in the graveyard, or just attack as a 1/1 creature. It can also help against edict effects that would otherwise force you to sacrifice one of your more important creatures. Street Wraith is a black 3/4 creature with Swamp Walk for 5 mana. None of that particularly matters, however, since we will only be using it for its cycling ability. You can pay 2 life to cycle Street Wraith, adding an additional card to your graveyard and drawing a new card. This allows us to thin our deck slightly at the cost of sometimes shocking ourselves. Normally, I wouldn't throw this card into any old deck, but it helps build a graveyard for Gurmag, and our deck is trying to move so quickly that a couple of life hopefully shouldn't matter. The rest of the cards in the deck are all things that can be played at any time, meaning that we should usually be able to quickly empty our hand if we want to. Cry of Contrition is a black sorcery for 1 mana that has target player discard a card. When it resolves, it exiles itself and haunts target creature. This means that when the haunted creature dies, it will trigger 1 more time from exile, causing another discard effect. This is a very powerful and cheap 2-for-1 that surprisingly has not found its way into any existing meta decks. It's not always easy to net 2 cards with Cry of Contrition, but it's still fine if it only gets 1. Raven's Crime is a favorite card of mine to brew with. It's a black sorcery for 1 that has target player discard a card. It can be cast over and over again with Retrace from the graveyard by spending the mana and discarding a land each time. This gives us a use for excess lands, and lets us more smoothly dump our entire hand in a quick way. It's worth keeping in mind that both Cry of Contrition and Raven's Crime say target player, so in a pinch you can always target yourself for the discard. Vicious Rumors is another black sorcery for 1 mana. This has each opponent discard a card and mill themselves 1, and then lose a life and you gain 1 life. Wrench Mind is a black sorcery for 2 that has target player discard 2 cards unless they discard an artifact card. The reason that we play so many discard effects in this deck is because they are cheap and help limit the options that our opponent has access to while we accelerate our own game plan. Finally, we round out our deck with Executioner's Capsule. This is a black artifact for 1 mana that allows you to pay 2 mana and sacrifice it to destroy target non-black creature. We play this as our removal because it can be put on the board for 1 mana regardless of what is happening and whether or not there are any creatures that you want to kill. In the sideboard, we start with 3 Snuff Out. This is a black instant for 4 mana that destroys target non-black creature. The catch is, if you control a swamp, you can pay 4 life instead of its mana cost, making it a very cheap and fast removal spell. These should be brought in against any deck that has enough valid targets. The only reason that they're not played mainboard is because it can be awkward for them to get stuck in your hand if they don't have a valid target. Banehound is a 1/1 black creature for 1 mana that has haste and lifelink. This is mostly here for burn and matchups where your opponents aren't playing many creatures early on, but it can also serve as protection from edict effects that might hurt one of your bigger threats. Faerie Macabre is a free, instant speed way to slow down decks trying to get value from their graveyard. Geth's Verdict is a black instant for 2 that has target player sacrifice a creature and lose 1 life. This is here for matchups like Reanimator and Boggles that play 1 very big or protected creature. Mogis' Favor is a brand new card from Theros Beyond Death. It's a black aura enchantment for 1 mana that gives the enchanted creature +2/-1. It has the escape ability, so it can be played from your graveyard by spending 3 mana and exiling 2 other cards. This is a multi-purpose card, mostly good for repeatedly removing enemy creatures with 1 toughness, or sometimes for slapping on your own creatures to try to win faster. This deck was surprisingly fun to play. I'll have videos of a couple of matches up soon. Thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe if you'd like to see more Magic the Gathering Pauper content.